Official time.
Good afternoon. I'd like to call our meeting to order, our KUB board meeting, our October 19th meeting, to order at 12 noon. Mr. Coley, can you note that all commissioners except Commissioner Simpson Brown is present and accounted for? Noted. Thank you very much. The next item is to approve our minutes for September 21st, 2023. Can I get a motion to approve our minutes? It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Minutes have been approved. Our next really official action is the consideration for nominees for commissioner term beginning January 1st, 2024, which would replace this person. So I would like to call on Commissioner Feinbaum from the nominating committee to give the nominating committee report.
Thank you, Vice Chair Small. This year's nominating process for the term beginning January 1st, 2024 began in January of this year when an online application became available on the KUB website. The committee met in August, and advertisements ran in the News Sentinel that month, as well as advertisement on the KUB website and on social media. The committee evaluated the submitted applications and selected qualified applicants for interviews. The city charter requires that the board provide the mayor with at least 5 nominees for each commissioner vacancy. The nominating committee recommends the following nominees: Chet Hunt, Patrick Hunt, Kavanaugh Mims, Craig Pickett, and Clarence Vaughn.
Thank you. You've heard the recommendation of the nominating committee. Are there any members of the public who would like to address the board regarding today's nomination? Nope. Seeing none, I would like to ask Mr. Mark Walker, board secretary and University of Alabama fan, to distribute the ballots.
But he is wearing an orange tie today.
And it's such a great looking orange tie.
Conflicted.
I appreciate you. I appreciate it.
Commissioners, here are your written ballots. They do reflect the names of all the candidates who submitted qualifying applications for the board seat. Please vote for at least 5 candidates, and you may select from those recommended by the nominating committee, any other applicant, or you may write in a candidate if you wish. And just a reminder to please sign your ballots when done.
Check mark.
Check.
Yeah, I wrote your name.
Wrote my name in? Yeah. I appreciate that.
Vice Chair Small, the following individuals received a majority of the votes: Chet Hunt, Patrick Hunt, Kavanaugh Mims, Craig Pickett, and Clarence Vaughn.
Thank you, Mr. Walker, and go Vols. The names of the nominees selected today will be submitted to the mayor along with the complete set of applications received this year. The mayor will select her nomination and submit the names to City Council. Thank you to the nominating committee for your hard work, and thank you for conducting the process this year. Now I'd like to turn the floor over to President Bolus for our President's Report. Gabe, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Dr. Small. I appreciate that.
Oh, my goodness. Do not do that.
Yeah. Commissioners, we're very excited at how much progress we've made in our fiber division. Customers that have gotten that service have really enjoyed it thoroughly. We want to also give you an update of where we're at. So I've asked Jamie Davis, Vice President of Fiber and Chief Technology Officer, and Britt Elmore, our Manager of Fiber Network Engineering, to do a presentation today for you all. So, Jamie.
Okay, Commissioners, good to be with you. Britt and I are excited to kind of give you a first quarter, if you will, update on where we've been. Bulk of the presentation today, Britt's going to give us a little bit of education about how we have forged really some of our engineering and construction and installation processes. So a little bit of behind the scenes there, and really including some of the innovation and technology that his team has employed in doing this. I think you'll enjoy hearing from that. And then I'll finish up today with really kind of the business update, where we are from a budgetary and customer growth perspective, as well as kind of tease some of our upcoming marketing spots I think you might want to see. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Britt and let him get going on our update. And we lost the battery cover.
That's it. Thank you, Jamie. Good afternoon, Mr. Bolus, members of the board. Thanks for having me today. I'm very excited to share with you all our fiber engineering and construction workflows. I would like to point out first that I did bring some show and tell, and I showed a few of you beforehand, but I'm happy to show you afterwards if you would like. So first up, we have a high-level process overview. It's very similar to other departments around KUB. So I'm just going to go into each one of these just briefly, and then I'll delve into those a little bit deeper in the following slides. So like any other department like at KUB, we start with our design process. And so that is basically taking data that we already have with our system, manipulating that data, and producing documents for the construction crews to go then build. Moving from there, we move into make ready. Make ready is literally just making space ready on the pole for us to attach our fiber to. And again, I'll get a little bit more into that in a minute. Construction, similar to other groups, that's basically attaching that fiber to that pole to create that, that span. Splicing is basically connecting each end of these reels, so the end of the cable here, connecting those pieces of cable together to create that continuity. Inspection, that's our QA/QC process. Again, similar to other groups around the organization. It is determining the level of quality that the contractor has done for us and holding them to that level of quality. After all those things have occurred, we can then make the area available for service. All right, so first up, that design process starts with a high-level design, and it is truly just a high-level overview of our area and how we're going to serve things. So some of the things we're looking for are, number one, those boundaries that we want to serve a particular area for. So we typically follow our electric substation boundaries. As you all know, there are many substations throughout our service territory. Ordinarily, fiber is going to follow an electric substation boundary, with a few exceptions. So sometimes we want to maximize our efficiency and not cross a river or a railroad or an interstate crossing. So that's one thing we're looking for. Another thing we're looking for is the number of customers that we're actually going to serve in that service area. On average, for our build, we're looking at about 10,000 customers per service area. Also, during that HLD review or high-level design review, we are utilizing this tool here. And that tool is an all-digital workflow that allows us to communicate back and forth with our contractor that helps us do the designs. Some things we're looking for are cable sizing along routes, and so those different color cables are different size cables for us, and I'll show you in a minute, kind of zoomed in version. And again, just big picture, we want to make sure that we take a logical approach to how we're going to serve the area, make it make sense, basically. That is correct, yep.
And that's Sequoia Hills?
Sequoia Hills. It was just the area we were doing when we had the most recent high-level design for. So yeah, that's exactly right, Sequoia Hills. Okay. So after that high-level design is complete, we then move into an iterative process, very similar to other groups, to produce these final designs or construction documents. So again, driving in a little bit more detail here, you can see the road that we're on, you can see the different size cable. Again, those different colors mean something, different sizes. You can see the splice enclosures, so these things right here, the one that I have with me today. You can see those enclosures. You can see where the houses are and where the down guys are, so on and so forth. So really we're creating more detail in order to hand that document out to the construction folks so that they can build what we said to do. Interesting to point out, this is really one of the only times that we actually use a paper document. For the most part, we're using an all-digital workflow for everything. Running concurrently with that design process is the make ready. And that kind of happens in two steps. So number one, it's the assessment. And number two, it's the actual physical construction of the make ready. And again, all make ready means is we're assessing the pole, determining if we have space on that pole. If we don't have space, we need to take some action in order to create that space. So this part, step one, is the assessment. We're typically about 12 months out ahead of the fiber construction during the assessment portion. And so that allows us to mitigate risks like, crazy complicated designs that we may have to do reroutes for, so on and so forth. Again, point out that we're using an all digital workflow for this as well. So our assessment folks will actually take an iPad and have the ability to drop any number of dots that you see kind of on the right side over there. So just a quick example of some of those, it may mean that we need to move electric infrastructure up in some cases. We may need to do vegetation management. We also may need to replace the pole entirely. So an interesting thing as well is the vegetation management. So anytime our make-ready person drops a dot on the map, that kicks off an automated workflow that we've created to make our workflows more streamlined. That actually sends an automated email over to our vegetation management department for them to kick off their workflows to get rid of or to take care of that vegetation management issue. So pretty neat there. Okay, so we've done design, we've done make-ready assessment, we've now moved into the actual construction of make-ready. And so that is, again, physically rearranging the pole in some instances or replacing that pole entirely. So on the picture to the right here, ordinarily our electric infrastructure is at the very top of the pole, and our comms, all comms, are at the bottom of the pole. And KUB intends to be the top attacher in that comm space. So you can see us right there in that picture there. So again, we've assessed it, we determine what needs to happen. That, through that same app with that workflow, goes over to the construction folks, which in this case is the contractor for us, and they do that work. So it's replacing the pole sometimes, it's moving that electric infrastructure up, it's moving the comm down, it's any number of things listed on the previous page. That process happens about somewhere between 6 and 10 months ahead of our normal fiber construction. But we do have a quick response team that is dedicated to stay with our fiber construction as to not slow us down if something has changed, if conditions have changed since we assessed it the first time. So, and I'd like to point out,
With the folks who do the fiber, is this primarily in-house or is contractors or a mix of both?
so the folks that actually install the fiber, those are contractors.
Okay.
Yep.
Does every pole in a subdivision need to have that wire run to it?
Not every pole necessarily, but we typically follow conductor. And so if there's conductor on the pole, we probably are on that same pole as well, but not necessarily every pole.
So what are the other comms lines?
What are the other comm slots?
The lines below the
Oh,
KU?
got you. So yeah, there's just other companies that you may think of around the region. Yeah, Comcast, TDS, Frontier, AT&T.
So we let them use our poles?
We do, yes.
For fee.
Do we charge them? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have agreements and this, that, and the other.
And vice versa as well too, where TDS or AT&T would own their own poles, we're on their pole as well too, both with our electric infrastructure and with fiber.
And
And
so,
if the lines are underground,
Yep.
at this point, you're not pulling them through, correct?
so great question. And I'm not going to get too much into underground today, but I will say we do a very similar process to underground. And so if you can imagine, we have conduits in underground neighborhoods, and those conduits have space in them. We will actually check to see if there's space for us to pull our fiber through to utilize our existing infrastructure to further drive down the cost of construction. We're about 60-70% efficient on that. Otherwise, we would step over to the side and bore a whole new path for us to go into.
So in real time right now, literally, we're in Sequoia Hills doing some of that pre-work. We call it rotting to check and see if we can use that. You saw the design that Britt showed us. That kind of predated that, but our construction for Sequoia Hills is really slated for next summer. So it really kind of tells you just how far ahead we get before we go into an area to construct.
Yep, great questions. Okay, so we've done the design, we've done the make ready, so we've created space on the pole. We now move into what we call aerial construction. So that happens like this. So the first step is we physically put hardware on each pole, and then we come along with a steel cable or messenger or strand wire, and then from there we hang these rollers. You've probably seen these around town, maybe hanging there during the construction process in certain areas. We then pull our fiber through those rollers and finally attach it to the strand with this lashing device. And all that thing does is basically wraps it around the cable and the strand and connects those two and makes them basically one thing. And so it connects those two pieces together, and they'll go on down the line doing that. Interesting to point out, we use strand or messenger, again, that steel cable. We made the decision early on to do that because it gives us two things. Number one, resiliency during a storm event, so it creates a stronger member for if a tree were to fall on that fiber, makes more resilient there. Also, it gives us the ability to future-proof our system, so we can immediately go out and attach another piece of fiber if we need to increase the capacity in the area. You all know how fast Knoxville's growing as well as I do. It's crazy out there. And so this device gives us the ability to attach that and give service to those different subdivisions that are popping up.
If there's a storm event and there's an impact on that line, does one crew, are they able to fix both things, or do you need two crews out there to fix that?
So are you talking about to fix electric and communications? So it depends on what the problem is, and we're still working through those workflows. But for now, if it's very simple and straightforward, the electric line crew can just place it back up for us. If they need to redo the lashing, so if they need to rerun that device, or if they need to redo splicing, which I'll get into in a second, we'll actually send our maintenance crews out, our emergency crews out.
August gave us a good test. It was
Yes.
the first time we had fiber outages
Right.
in the middle of an electric event, so, yeah.
Yeah. Great questions. Okay. So we've hung the fiber. It's there now. Again, probably looks something like this hanging off the end here. We now need to connect each one of those pieces of fiber together. Basically, all we're doing during the splicing process is melting each one of those pieces of glass together, and so that's called fusion splicing. So the splicers have a very tedious process. It's very time-consuming per piece of fiber here. You can see how many pieces of glass are on into that. So some of the things they do to keep organized are very detailed stickers on the outside, very organized on the inside to keep that fiber cable nice and neat, and then also labeling on the inside as well. So most of our splicing occurs by contractor right now. We do have some in-house splicers. We do require every splicer to upload a picture and to log their test result after they finish splicing. So after all of those things have occurred, so the construction, the splicing, it's all connected now, we then go into our QA/QC, or our inspection process. And so again, utilizing those all digital workflows that we've been kind of building through this, we can utilize the app that we've developed in-house to go out and determine the quality of work that contractor has given us. And so again, we require all these pictures to be uploaded to our app. Each one of these dots is actually an enclosure out in the system, so we can gain quality from this app. Not only quality, we can get quantity here as well. Each one of these statuses are things like ready for splicing, ready for inspection, ready for pass, rework, things like that. So those splice enclosures may move through any number of those statuses. The thing that's most interesting is that we can actually track the pass rate per week and project out when we're actually going to be done with a certain area. So that way we can let our marketing team know that they can go ahead and start marketing in certain areas. Not only that, we can keep our contractor accountable to the dates that they've said they were going to meet. I don't think we could move as fast as we are or at the scale that we are without this particular app right here. All right, so we've got service. It's greenlit. We're ready to do install. So a customer calls in any number of ways. So they can get service by calling in or going online, right? So we basically go out after that happens and effectively just plug in a service drop to this enclosure right here, one of these enclosures. We take that service drop to their house and cool it up on the side of their house. This part in the process, we don't necessarily need the customer home, but we will communicate with them and let them know when we're going to be there. So after this step, we move into the in-home install, which I'm sure we're all familiar with that process. So this picture here is basically taking that last step. So we're going from that outside portion into the house, and that tech is going to determine the most optimal place for a router or an ONT, potentially a Wi-Fi extender. Not only that, we're going to walk the customer through every step of their process. We're going to help them set up their devices, and we're going to make sure we're the best, most friendliest customer service they've seen. Changing gears just slightly to our phase updates. So in the blue there is our phase one. So you've seen we've gone across town in different various areas of town. We intend to, and we are tracking to finish up phase one by the end of this year. We are very close. I believe Rocky Hill's our last area, and I think we're pre-selling starting next week, which is great. So phase one is about 965 distribution miles and about 45,000 serviceable customers. Phase 2, again, we've built in Phase 1 and Phase 2 together now in that blue. You can see how it kind of fills in our service territory. And you all have seen this before. But basically that entire polygon shape is our electric service territory, which we will eventually fill that entire area in. So Phase 2, again, is all the blue, and Phase 3 is what's remaining. We're pretty fortunate in Phase 2 that we've received a lot of grant funding that has allowed us to move some areas forward from Phase 3 to Phase 2. And those areas are those underserved areas or areas that maybe didn't have any service at all. And so we've been very fortunate to allow that to happen and bring those areas forward. So just real quick stats on, yes.
You said that's allowed you to move some things up. We've been telling folks since the beginning, if you want to know about when you have service, go look your address up.
That tool, the fiber
So
availability tool.
That's going to be current with those things that
Yes,
you've moved up?
that's right. Yep.
And that was really in our planning early on. If we'd have laid that out just where the fiber was and everything, we would have probably had those rural areas more in that Phase 3. And so really knowing we got those grants early on really allowed us to position those really early. And as you all are aware, we're already serving up in Luttrell and Washburn areas, parts of those counties. So that's what Britt's referencing. That's right.
That's right.
When we went into some of the rural counties, particularly north of here, was there some inquiry about providing service to some of the areas that don't necessarily have electricity through us, and could that possibly happen?
There have been a lot of discussions about, especially with us, once we said we're getting in the business, some of the other electric distributors said, well, we wish KUB could just do this for us. But current state law prohibits that. There are a lot of talk at the state legislature about, I call it the good neighbor provision, that if they wanted us to come in, their governing body and our governing body kind of shook hands and said yes, then that would be allowed. It's really not moved. It's moved forward, but it's really not been seriously considered. Right. The good news for most of our, folks around the area, as I would say, one, as we've discussed, a lot of the distributors are in play already. So as we look at bordering entities, I would tell you really only Anderson County there with Clinton Utilities Board, for instance, is probably one of the very few distributors who are not in this space, and or a third party, much like Appalachian has partnered with what's called Tri-Light to do these type things. And then with all the money that's available from a state level, even prior to our grant, and then now what's coming forward as those areas that are truly underserved, even the for-profit providers are going for the grant dollars to serve those areas. So good news is between municipals and co-ops getting in the space along with the grant dollars, there's a lot of needs being met.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Definitely. Yeah, so again, very fortunate that we're getting that grant funding, and typically speaking, that grant funding is around these kind of county borders here. So just some quick stats to finish up here. Our Phase 2 is about 3,000 distribution miles and about 102,000 additional serviceable customers. Phase 3 is about 1,200 distribution miles and about 50,000 additional serviceable customers. I think that is it. Thank you all. I appreciate it.
Yeah, as we transition to kind of a business update, I'll brag on Britt and Adam Crocker, who are construction managers, not here. It wasn't but a couple of years ago that we were sitting here talking about let's get this thing going, and literally the amount of ground they've covered in a short amount of time to make this available is very impressive. And really the technological tools and innovation that these teams have realized, we can't be passing paper along with each other. We're going to lose stuff. We're not move fast enough. Really proud how we've really just capitalized on the investments in technology that this board has approved already in our other divisions. And really as a new utility kind of get to whiteboard or blue sky, how would I do this if I were starting fresh? And so really, really proud of the team, the way they've advanced that. But switching gears to kind of give you a business update of where we've been as far as the first quarter goes. From a budgetary side, the good news is we're on plan in that regard. You can see on screen we're a little bit over in electric capital. We're a little bit over in O&M on the fiber side, and those are really holdovers kind of as a timing issue from prior years where we said we need to roll that forward, just timing on projects or payments and that kind of thing. So first quarter and the outlook looks good from a budgetary perspective. Last time we probably talked in this room about this, we were talking about supply chain constraints. Good news is for the most part, the big ones have freed up. It still is an issue. You all are feeling it in your industries as well too. And again, it's kind of interesting. I was going to say funny. It's not funny that vehicles continue to be one in which we scratch our head at. And so good news is we got a few bucket trucks in that helps us continue to move forward on the fiber side. But it's just there are still remnants of the supply chain conundrum, post-COVID in that particular regard. As far as a point of reference, one big thing is to be sure that fiber's paying its fair share. Just of note, fiscal year to date, we've paid about $500,000 to the electric division, fiber has, for the use of the electric infrastructure. And then, as Britt mentioned, we have submitted our first grant reimbursements for those areas in which we're serving in Granger and Union County. Those total grants for all the areas we received was right around $15 million. We've submitted about $3.4 million for reimbursement, our first two in both of those counties for a total of 4 requests, but we are waiting for the state to get that money back to us. But been good working with the state, a lot of collaboration, but those first few reimbursement requests are always the toughest because you're trying to plow new ground. But we think we've got our issues worked out with the state there, and they've been very helpful in that particular regard. So that's kind of the spend side on fiber. As far as sales goes, again, the progress that Britt talked about there, we've had a good quarter of growth, both from a construction side and a sales growth side. We think that opening up new areas in which service was not available, like parts of Granger and Union County, along with the maturation of our marketing efforts, has really led to where we've come very, very close to our sales goals for the quarter. As we sit here today, we have just over 4,500 customers. That continues to grow in that regard. Since the fiscal year, we've made our service available to over an additional 11,000 customers, bringing our total to 36,000 that have service available to them. If you'll recall, our board level metric was to have it available to 90,000 customers by the end of the fiscal year. So that really does speak to the speed in which Britt and Adam's teams are working, getting the fiber out there to our community. And he also maybe give a little scoop to a couple commissioners in this room that we are about to open up Rocky Hill for pre-sale. So I know hopefully a couple of you all are excited about that. We know we are, and you should see us in your community soon out there. But again, we've averaged about 30 installs a day for this quarter, which again met our sales goals. It's really the first time we've seen that kind of hit that recasted revenue curve that we talked about with the board at LRP time. So we're very pleased with that. We think as we open up new areas, as our marketing and awareness areas efforts continue to improve, that'll keep going in that particular regard as well. We've been very competitive in the business area as well too. That was an area we didn't have a lot of data in. We didn't know how we would fare, but our pricing is very competitive, and we know our service is better in that particular regard. So small and medium business has been a nice surprise. It continues to really, really do well in signing on business customers in that particular regard. We've seen it both ways. I think it's probably like a lot of us that some of us are under contract, some aren't. I typically see the better deals on the business side having a contract. So longer term, better pricing, I think the providers want to put you under contract. We're no different in that regard as well too, as far as if it were to be a bigger account that we're going to have to make an infrastructure investment in, for instance, then we want some type of commitment in that particular regard. Of note, we've had 2 or 3 businesses say, I'm going to pay my contract out just to get out of this and come to you all. So we've seen it both ways in that particular regard. So, and then I think one of the competitive responses though here in Knoxville, and you all have seen it too, is either the abolition of contracts, or at least they're not making folks sign new ones. So my hope is that becomes less and less of an issue as time goes on. So, but we have indeed heard, well, mine ends out, I'll be there kind of thing. So good question.
Quick question. Do you have any insight into how your sort of quality and level of technology compares to competitors?
Anecdotally, only on a comparison level, probably, either through folks that have that service or just from their own personal experience in that particular regard. We have, from a technical perspective, metrics that we track about network availability and consistency of speed. Every one of our customers on our Smart Gig network, we do a speed test at night to be sure they're getting their upload and download speeds. As a customer, I can tell you it's excellent. I tell folks it's super fast, but what's best about it's what it's not. It doesn't drop, it doesn't go out, it doesn't spin. And so those are the things that we really kind of look for. But our goal on network reliability is like 5 nines. We really want to be, best of breed, always available, and we're achieving that goal. We hear, again, anecdotally from folks, they're like, man, this is fast, or man, it's great quality. And then we really hear that about our service too. Talking to folks here locally, it's not been without challenge in some locations, but we'll roll somebody that day, and that just doesn't happen with the other providers. So, but that's really the comparison. I think anything that we'd be able to compare from a statistical perspective would be self-reported, and I don't know if we could really, trust that in that regard from the competitors. So it goes without saying, converting customers is our top priority, assuming we're meeting our construction schedules and everything else. We continue to refine our strategy and try new things, doing things that maybe KUB as an entity hasn't done before. We've been doing a lot of door-to-door, not necessarily high-pressure sales or anything like that, but more so just visiting our neighbors where they're at, listening to them, understanding, are they under contract? Have they heard about KUB Fiber, that thing? Some of the unique promotions we've done is we've delivered door hangers with popcorn in there, and it says, enjoy a movie night on KUB. Please, call to sign up for service today in the serviceable areas in that regard. So just some unique things like that. We've learned to meet our customers where they are. So we've done one neighborhood event here recently in the Lincoln Park area. Had folks come out. One Knox brought some of their soccer players. We had a little bit of live music and a food truck. It was very unique and different. And at that event, we signed up a few customers at the same time. We actually were ready to pilot a notion that we stole from Chattanooga, in which we actually had service trucks that if anybody literally said, I want to sign up and get connected tonight, they were ready to roll. But nobody took us up on that. So we're hopeful that maybe that'll happen the next time. But doing things, again, like the Olaf Festival, the Asia Festival. Here's a picture recently, earlier this month, where we were up at, a beautiful day up in Union County up there. I can't speak enough that those folks think that this is wonderful. It's been a really big area, big growth for us, obviously, as well, too. But as we also pitch up some of our change in digital and advertising as well, too, really refining that now that our awareness campaign has really met a big goal of being sure that folks know what KUB Fiber is and it's available. We're really trying to pitch that up, change it up, and target the folks where it's available, getting the right message to them, and really stretch our marketing dollars further in that particular regard. So I want to talk a little bit about that. We're kind of calling it our tiered strategy, where our customers are falling into one of three tiers. And you can see on the screen that KUB Fiber is available in their area now, would be a tier 1 customer. They're coming up really soon here in the next 1 to 3 months. So again, our Rocky Hill neighbors there would be in that tier 2, and then everybody else past that would be in tier 3. And so our first big step in this tiered strategy was not necessarily tailoring something very, very specific to those first 2 tiers, but it was really to reduce the amount of traffic that maybe folks were seeing on their social or their targeted media related to a call to action to sign up for service, but yet their service was so far out, if that made sense. So we wanted to be sure that we were spending money the right way. We weren't giving them a call to action in which they could not take advantage of in that particular deal. And honestly, wanting to be sure that they still stayed engaged and involved and excited about KUB Fiber coming to their area. We will continue to refine that strategy, but what it's really allowed us to do is, as we pivot from that overall awareness again, is get the right message to the right folks in that particular space in that deal. And I think using the forms that you're seeing there about Google, Meta, Facebook, Instagram, those type of things, that's where you will see that really more so targeted, as opposed to broadcast television or our partnerships. We will continue to do what you'll see on WBR with Bus Stop Weather and things like that, but this is really where the bulk of our marketing spend for media is in that particular regard. So one of the things that we want to talk about in that tier is we're about to have some new marketing hit the space. What you're about to see is one of our spots that will air on digital and social platforms. This will be a tier 2, if you will. Very subtly, you will hear the call to action to be check and see if you're available for service near the end of the ad. So this is obviously something we've worked with Tombras to produce, and I think you'll like it. I'd like to show it to you.
The other day, my daughter was like, "Dad, what happened to our internet? It's so fast. I just downloaded a movie in like 2 seconds." And I said, "Honey, I know, because we got KUB Fiber." And for the first time in years, it's like we connected. Right, honey? Hey, at least the internet's fast.
KUB Fiber, the world's fastest internet. See when it's coming to your neighborhood at KUB.org.
So I know Ron and I really identify that with teenage daughters. that ad speaks to us in that particular regard. But again, really, and again, this would be a great ad that our Tier 2 customers would see, that really trying to build that anticipation, get them excited about checking to see when KUB fiber would be available, as opposed to sign up for service today or anything in that particular regard. So just to close out this particular update, from a marketing and growth perspective, we continue to research, plan, do things to meet our customers. As we expand into your areas and as friends that you see, we want you to give us feedback, challenge us, let us know what's working and what's not. But our efforts will be, targeted really to those folks who can sign up for service in the very near term. And in many cases, other folks will see us in those spaces like I mentioned, the Vol Network, our partnership with One Knox, the zoo, things like that as well too. So really a multifaceted approach as we continue to try to connect with our customers to get them excited and sign up for KUB Fiber. So really that's the update today. All good news, all signs pointing towards positive growth. But Britt and I'd be glad to answer any other questions you all may have.
Jamie, at one point, I know that a significant part of fiber was the school program for low-income communities. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So really twofold in that space. One, took us a little while because of red tape, but it was the Affordable Connectivity Program through the federal government, ACP. So we got approved for that. We're sitting right now at about 100 customers that are receiving that benefit. And that could be anybody that qualifies for that program. But specifically with our student low-income program, we have right now 3 students that are on that and receiving that full benefit. We continue to work with our schools in that space, our community relations team, our customer counselors are trying to work with those folks to get the word out. Awesome counselors at AE are really trying to get the word out, but we've expanded that into Fulton, Austin East, Central, and South Dole is where we're at right now. Tiffany, is there anything else of detail there that I missed that would be important?
I think you covered it. I think we're just focusing on working really closely with the staff inside the schools to get connected to the parents, because we know that that's really, it's going to convert customers to fiber, but also to the program and being aware of that. So that's what our focus has been on at this point. And I think we will make strides, and we'll have an update at some point where we're really beyond that three customers that are on the program. So,
and it's been nice to have, customers on the program so we can kick the tires on the process and be sure that it's working. And then just like Tiffany said, just connecting to their parents, sometimes can be a challenge through teenagers.
yes.
And so getting the word home to mom and dad. So we're working with the folks that know how to do that best at the schools in that particular regard. So it's off the ground, which is great.
Any questions?
Thank you very much.
All right. It's me again. So, Commissioners, I want to take this opportunity. I look forward to these times I get to talk about the employees that work at KUB. And I want to recognize 2 employees that are here today. Dwayne Lane, who works in our meter systems group, and Dustin Lynch, who worked in meters but now is in a new service department. So I want to share with you something they did recently that just epitomizes what our folks do, our culture we have. And so next slide. About a month ago, we got a post on our website or on the social media telling us about 2 employees that they witnessed do an extraordinary event. They were behind them on Magnolia Boulevard Avenue, watched these folks get out of their truck and help a person get across the street that was clearly having a vision impairment. It had a walking stick. First thing they did, jump out of their vehicle, put on their vests, block traffic. This customer sees that, blocks the other lane, and watch Dustin himself walk this person across the street and keep them from getting hurt or run or hit by a vehicle. We didn't know about this and who did this. We sort of internally said, who did this? We couldn't find the people. They didn't tell us they did this. And so I had an opportunity in front of the whole company about 3 weeks ago saying, here's something that happened. Who did this? And finally that day, Dwayne Lane raised his hand and said, it was me and Dustin. We did these things. And you see the write-up right there that says it all. I don't need to read it to you. It's one of those things that we talk about. Our folks go above and beyond. You can't teach this. You can't make people do this. This is what's in their DNA. We're so proud to have folks like that. Dwayne's been with us almost 20 years. One of our senior meter person that does all the technical hard meters. And then Dustin's been here a couple of years and, like I said, transferred departments to a new opportunity for him. So, Dwayne, Dustin, thank you very much for what you do. It says it best. You helped a person, and whether or not they were in need or not, we made sure we made them very, very safe. And really, I want to echo too, our culture and our blueprint speak to this. You know, safety first. First thing they did is put their vests on. I mean, that's just amazing they thought about that. Then they made sure that they took care of the public safety. And then, of course, they're just the ethical behaviors that they exhibit every day. I mean, those echo our true blueprint and our values. So thank you, you two. Appreciate you a whole lot. Keep it up, and we'll catch up later. So thank you. I want you to stand up, please. Dwayne Lane, Justin Lynch. Yeah, so thank you all.
Can I just make a very quick
Go ahead,
comment?
please do. Yes.
You know, Dustin and Dwayne, I just want to say thank you for doing that. You know, as I finish my term on the board, this is what I think gives me joy about working with KUB and seeing people like you who really do care about the community and who really understand that it really takes all of us to uplift the community. So thank you for what you did, and thank you for helping this one person. It may seem like one thing with this one person, but I will tell you, the people who care about that person, their loved ones, I mean, it was a huge thing for them. And so I just want to say on behalf of the board, thank you for representing KUB the way that I think we want all of us to represent KUB. So thank you.
And I will finish up with one more thing. So so I was able to attend with some folks at KUB the annual Knoxville College President's Gala that they do over there. They're, you know, as you know, that school, they're trying to rejuvenate it, if you want to call it that, and get it back to the way it was back in its heyday. And this year we received an award. I did not know about that till back the day before, so I got surprised and was put on the spot a little bit in a good way. And so KUB received a Importance of Giving award. And what talked about in that particular award was, you know, they own their own utility structure. It's a unique situation, like a lot of campuses back in the day. They own their own electric system, their own water system, and obviously with the condition the school's been in, they've needed some help. So we've been out there trying to get those disconnected. You drop their utility bill where buildings are not being used, and in some cases help them light it back up because it was gotten so dark there. So we've helped them with some lighting upgrades up there. And so they want to say thank you because they couldn't do it without us. You know, we didn't have to do it, they keep saying, but we chose to help them out because of the situation they're in and want to make that campus a much better campus. And, you know, I'm excited about where they're headed. I hope that things get really better. I've worked out there for many years, and it was really an honor and a surprise both that we got this award. But it's that partnership we want to make with those schools like that. And I want to say, you know, we're very tickled at that, and I want to pass that on to you all, make you all aware of that. That's a project in the beginning. I've seen Tybee over there a few times at Knoxville College, and they're trying to help with UT too. So appreciate your help there also, Tybee. Thank you. That's all I have.
Wish to address the board today, you have 5 minutes to make your comments, and the timer on the projection screen will reflect this. Are there any members of the board? Probably. Thank you. Well, following the adjournment of this meeting, the board will have a lunch session that is open to the public to observe. This meeting is now adjourned. Thank you all.